Thanks for joining us today. I'm Charlie Evans, President and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. Whether you're a student in the Year Up program or one of the summer interns at the Chicago Fed or another financial institution, we're glad to have you here today. I hope it's impactful and meaningful for you. Let me provide just a few thoughts for you today. First, for those of you considering careers in the financial services sector, there are many opportunities for professionals in all disciplines. Financial services is challenging and exciting and perfect for strong performers and fast learners. This industry can be an incredible launching pad toward opportunities in any other sector. Take the time to network, research, and understand how this unique sector operates. Learn about exciting developments in this field, of which there are many. For example, the Federal Reserve is launching a new real-time payment system that will be used globally and doing a lot of important work to support the nation's economy during this difficult time. Secondly, as best you can, make the most of your internship. Our industry needs your knowledge, interest, enthusiasm, passion, and technical skills more than ever. Take advantage of this conference and all that FSP has to offer you. Network with your colleagues and peers, even during this COVID-19 era, and soak in everything you can about this industry and the incredible opportunities it offers. Take notes today during the conference and circle back afterwards to your fellow attendees or even speakers and ask them more about their experiences and insights. The FSP is an incredible collective that can create career pathways for all of you as you seek full-time employment. The Federal Reserve has been a huge advocate and supporter of diversity and inclusion efforts such as the FSP. Our industry is striving to build a more diverse and inclusive workforce, and we're seeking to hire candidates with different experiences and backgrounds to make our environment mirror the incredible diversity of the Chicago area. Like many firms, the Chicago Fed has been working hard to achieve more diversity and inclusion. Part of those efforts include our involvement in the FSP, and we've been a founder since the beginning 7 years ago and have seen it grow and create many opportunities for young professionals. The FSP helps us break down barriers and build bridges as we continually build on our D&I efforts. We also support our communities through our public outreach, including research and policy discussions with leaders from communities of color who have been hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic and the civil unrest we have recently experienced. Thank you again for joining us today, and I wish you all the best of luck in your careers.
At Wintrust Financial Corporation, I am the Chief Diversity Officer, and I like to think of that role as one that is bringing humanity back to business, or in this case, back to banking. And what that means is I assist our corporate leaders in many different ways to connect human capital and unique perspectives with our real business strategy and challenges. So what that means is that I also try and leverage many of our organizational career mobility platforms and systems that encourage equity through greater access for a number of for team members across the enterprise. My role with FSP is that I am one of 3 co-chairs for the financial services pipeline. And, you know, one might think of that as one of 3 chief ringmasters who are trying to plan, guide, try and lead some strategic approaches to addressing the gap in representation among African Americans and Latinos. And we're trying to do it in such a way that everyone is rather speaking with an equal voice and has an opportunity for input. So hence the ringmaster part, that it does require that we try and manage a bit through ambiguity and just with a teeny tiny bit of authority from the standpoint of who's going to make the decision to move forward.
So my role at the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago is I'm Chief Diversity Officer and I'm Group Head for Community Investments. And so what I effectively do as Chief Diversity Officer is help the organization think about our diversity strategy in context of our business strategy. I think diversity and inclusion frequently is viewed as just an HR issue, but for us, we think about it as a business strategy. How does it help us enable what we're supposed to be doing with our members and all of our stakeholders internally and externally? I'm also group head for community investment, our community investment group. Our community investment group is responsible for providing liquidity for affordable housing, down payment assistance, capacity building grants, and things that our members need in the marketplace. And so earlier this year, I was asked to take over responsibility for that because we think having a D&I lens to the work we're doing there also helps us connect better with our business strategy around diversity and the things we're trying to do, the impact we're trying to have in the marketplace. And with respect to what I do for the FSP, I, like Melissa, am one of the co-chairs for the Financial Services Pipeline Initiative. And so what we do as co-chairs are we try to figure out what's the strategy and then how do we execute that strategy across the multitude of banks who are interested in saying we are trying to solve for the lack of diversity in financial services in Chicago. And hopefully we are successful in creating a true pipeline, meaning from entry level all the way up to our most senior levels, we are addressing this issue, not just at the entry point, but our most senior levels all the way into board diversity as well.
You know, I guess if I really had to pull just one thing is for them to know that they have a community of peers, true peers. And these are the individuals who are going through this conference with them now. But there are a host of peers who have walked a similar path in previous years, and that they are in this space, in this place and time because they earned their way into it. It's not just because we're talking about advancing diversity and inclusion in the industry. These are talented individuals who earned their way into this opportunity. And I think it's very important that they recognize that for themselves and they kind of hold on to that, because at times when they go into their actual careers, and if they stick with banking, and frankly, if they go into a number of industries, because I've done this work in various industries, they may not always see themselves in abundance. So this is an opportunity to really look around and savor the fact that there are individuals who are in a similar situation, who are also trying to learn more about the industry, trying to get a better sense of who they are as budding professionals, and what they want to accomplish through their careers. And it's important to kind of hold on to that going in, because things will change. We never plan for what we're witnessing today, but know that, again, you are here because you earned your way here and you deserve to be here. And the fact that the organization has a commitment to diversity and inclusion is a good thing. You are here because you have earned your way into this opportunity, not because the organization has a commitment to diversity and inclusion. That is one reason why we were very interested in bringing you together, but you earned your way into having a meaningful internship this summer. And I'd like for you really to look around, albeit virtually, connect with your peers, know that you are not in this alone, that you have a true community of peers. And there are individuals, there's former students who have walked the same path in recent years before you, who probably are in your organizations today, that you should try and connect with as well. And know that we can't always plan predictably for the future. We're in a situation now that none of us, I think, has ever really witnessed before. So that means that it's really important for you to really have a sense of who you are, what you have to offer, and understand a little more about the industry and how you might want to make a difference for the industry as well as for your own careers. But I think most importantly, you're here because you deserve to be here. You did the work, you've earned your way here. And now the trick is to take away from this conference something that you can incorporate into the rest of your internship for this summer, when you return to campus, your studies, and when you launch into your real job, as they say, post-graduation, you have a better sense of what lies ahead. So take advantage of this moment.
If there's one thing I'd want you all to take away from the conference, I would say that just know you're smart and you're talented. You jumped a lot of hurdles to get here. You're going to have more hurdles to jump in your career. But every time you jump a hurdle, it builds resiliency in you. It makes you stronger. It makes you tougher. And as you're smart and talented and don't ever let go of that, you're going to be fine in your career. There are opportunities in financial services for each and every one of you all. And we are here to make sure each and every one of you all take full advantage of all the opportunities that are before you. But recognize every hurdle you see in front of you, you can jump because you've jumped it before. It may feel like you're incurring more than you've incurred in the past. Don't worry about that. You can jump them. And if you don't know how to jump them, there are people out here to help you understand how you jump them, when you jump them, and which ones you run around and which ones you don't jump. But just know that in the words of Kendrick Lamar, we're going to be all right if you jump. So there's a lot of adversity everybody's going to face in their career. As you enter financial services, you will frequently be the only one who looks like you in the room. Whether that is you're the only person of color, you're the only male of color, you're only the female of color, being the only one will be a frequent stop in your life or one of the few in the room. So maybe you're not the only one, but you'll be one of the few when you enter the room. And that will be challenging because there are people who will welcome you because you're one of the few. There are others who will make it more challenging because you're one of the few, and they'll second guess why you're there and how you got there. So you just need to, again, remain confident in your skills and your ability and never let anybody challenge you on why you're in the room, because as Melissa said earlier, you earned the right to be there and you deserve to be there, and never let anybody else second guess why you're there. And you show them that you've earned the right to be there. You show them that you deserve to be there. And you show them that you deserve to be in other places as well.
Well, I learned early on that I needed to listen more than I talked. I needed to share a meaningful point of view, not just to hear myself talk, but to be additive to the conversation or to the situation. And I also learned that I didn't have to have all of the answers, especially to the questions that I was never asked, right? So I had to understand more about just what my responsibilities were, and as it were, what was my lane. And in some cases, I had to help other people understand where their lanes were as well. Our lanes can intersect, but I'm not trying to overtake your lane and you're not trying to overtake mine. And we'll get a whole lot more done through the art of collaboration and integration and what I call strategic persistence, which is now help me understand why, or maybe this isn't the right time, but what could we do in the meantime? And is there an opportunity to circle back to a particular idea or what have you? So it's important to demonstrate that as we said, you're smart, you're talented, you have something to offer, and you've done the work. Now, we don't have to spend an extraordinary amount of chips, if you will, trying to prove that to people. We just need to make sure that we are good and conquering what we have assigned to us at the time. And I've always tried to function that way. Even today, I wouldn't profess that I'm an expert in diversity and inclusion. I'm always learning. I'm always applying. I'm always shifting. I'm always growing. So that has been a key to my being able to overcome career adversities. Because as Cedric said, I found myself being the only in the room often. So that doesn't mean I have to turn everything off just because nobody else looks like me in the room. In fact, in some cases, yes, I felt a responsibility to provide a point of view that was meaningful. But again, I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room. The final point, I think, is that, learning to become a very solid communicator and not intentionally hurting people. I've never been one who believed I needed to crush other people in order to excel. I was always focused on crushing the challenge. And so, I have two adult children, and both of them were athletes, and I would always tell them, let your game speak. And that means if you've done the work and you put the effort behind it, then your game will speak. And that's how you can lean into overcoming adversities as they show up, because they will definitely show up. The point is to not give up just because they showed up. And if we're quoting pop culture, Beyonce says your best revenge is your paper. Your best revenge is your achievement. The career setback that I experienced was in around 1996, where I was actually laid off for the one and only time ever in my career. And that was something that was really quite new to me, not entirely surprising, but new. Plus the fact my family had just moved to Chicago so that my husband could advance his career. So what I thought was a low point, all of a sudden have no job, I recognized that actually it required me to slow down, really pause and think about, what did I want to pursue as a career? Who was I as an individual? What were my preferences? What was I good at, but maybe didn't want to continue to do? And what were some of the things that I wanted to, explore? So I discovered that in addition to I was a salesperson at the time. In addition to being good at sales, I discovered that I also had skills for facilitation and training. And I discovered that I was very interested in helping people to continue to advance their careers in a way that was meaningful for them. So what really felt like a pause, meaning I know sales, do I have to go back into sales, actually ended up being a very nice detour where I was really able to bring all of those skills and experiences together, and I use them all to this day. So I like to say that kind of set up a trapeze that, I've kind of swung through and around and through. It's never been straight up. But I've continued to learn different things in my very non-linear, very mosaic of a pathway that I've trodden for the last several decades. And again, I continue to learn. I continue to recognize that uncertainty could be just around the corner at any time. So I try never to get too complacent so that I can be mindful of who I am and what I would like to do moving forward.
So a setback I faced early in my career that later became an advantage was when I was in a training program right out of college. I was in a training program. You go through and do credit analysis, and then you finish your last credit analysis, and there's a big presentation you make to senior leaders in the bank, and you have to pass it. If you don't pass it, they make you redo one. If you don't pass the second one, you're basically out of the training program. So my first pass through, I didn't pass the credit analysis and was very disappointed, very frustrated, because I knew I had done a great job on this credit analysis. I absolutely knew I nailed it. The vast majority of the people in the room said I nailed it. One person said I did not. The challenge in this training program, though, is everybody in the room had to agree. So even if one person thought you did not do a good job, you don't pass. And you get rated on a scale like 1 to 5. Everybody had given me 4s and 5. This one person gave me 0 and 1. So clearly there was an issue with this one person in the room. And so afterwards, I found out I didn't pass, very dejected. Someone who was a mentor of mine came over to me later and said to me, I think you have better credit skills than your entire class, but there are people here who will never let you know that. And so it was one of those humbling things, because I realized this wasn't about me. This is about some systemic issues there that they wanted to hold me back. And so I was challenged to say, well, what do I do about this? And so at some point I had to either accept being held back or decide I'm just going to work hard and overcome that. And so I just decided, look, if you think I don't know what I'm going to do, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to show you how well I know what I'm doing. And so again, I had to go back through the process again. The next time, all 5s, I knocked it out the park. And so at that point, I decided the benchmark for me is anything I do, I'm going to be above average. You are never going to be able to hold me back, because if I try to shoot for being average, then you could hold me back and I could be below it. But if my benchmark is every single other thing I do is going to be above average, even if you try to knock me back, I'm still going to be with the pack. But you're never going to be in a situation where you're going to hold me back. It reminds me of this Frederick Douglass quote: "There's no struggle, there's no progress." So with that struggle, help me progress.
The FSP is so important today because it is an incredible manifestation of what can happen when competitors collaborate around a single issue or challenge. I have, thought that from the beginning of being introduced to FSP about 3.5 years ago, and I still feel the same way. As I mentioned before, I've been in other industries doing this work and otherwise, and never have I seen competitors come together sort of in an equal kind of playing field and say, this is a challenge that we all have. And there's nobody in this room that can tell me you don't have this challenge. This is a challenge that we all have. So let's put the brunt of our collective organizations behind this issue and think about what we can do to make this industry better than how we found it. And so FSP is just, I think, this model of what can happen when you give thoughtful insights and inputs to really understanding and identifying what are some of the challenges just systemically, but what would also be some of the individual interpersonal challenges that one might face as well, especially when they're trying to navigate through an industry that they may not see themselves a lot, meaning more professionals of color may not see themselves in abundance. So, if just borrowing from what Cedric has said is what I've said, what others have said is, this is an opportunity for us to create that community for these young professionals, which is huge. Even I, in my background, had never really been in that kind of situation outside of college, so that's a key resource that FSP is providing. FSP is doing the research. FSP is helping to shape and define what the issue actually is. And we have kept it in the scope of financial services and banking companies in the local market. So we're not trying to solve some national issue, even though we know for a fact and empirically that this is a national challenge. But FSP has taken a lead and has actually gotten a lot of attention from others across the country, but has taken a lead in saying, here in our background, we are going to take control of this situation, and we are going to put the resources and the thought leadership and the brain power behind trying to come up with some meaningful interventions and solutions to do what we can to make this industry better than the way we found it just 6-10 years ago.
Well, I think the FSP is really critical today for a couple of reasons. I started my career in banking over 30 years ago. And if I look at banking today, the representation in banking today looks very similar than it did 30 years ago. But the biggest difference to that is the industry recognizes this is a problem they can't attack individually, because when we attack it individually, all we do is steal talent from the bank across the street, and they come steal our talent back, and we're not increasing the size of the pie. And so what the industry in Chicago has come together to do is to say, instead of us stealing each other's talent and never really growing the size of the opportunity and the number of opportunities, let's come together as a collective, figure out how do we grow the number of opportunities for everyone. And so that way, instead of us stealing each other's talent, let's create more talent that we can all leverage, we can all use. And if we create more talent throughout the entire pipeline, the entire industry in Chicago becomes a model of what can work. And as Melissa's talked about this being a national problem, Chicago can become a model for how do you fix this issue of lack of diversity in financial services, and candidly, lack of diversity in other industries. Other industries can leverage this model to come together and collectively solve for that lack of diversity. And so again, we've just got to think about FSP as being a solution that can be leveraged not just in Chicago, not just in financial services. This can be a model for how you change that whole notion of lack of diversity for everybody around this space.
Cedric, we are the world.
Yes. And as Gil Scott Heron says, no one can do everything, but everybody can do something.
Hi, I'm Helene Gayle, President and CEO of the Chicago Community Trust, and I'm also one of the co-chairs of the CEO Leadership Council for the Financial Services Pipeline Initiative. You know, I think if I were to give advice to somebody entering the financial services field, I would say that it has to be one of the most important fields there is today. As everyone knows, finances in some ways make the world go round, and being a part of this field, which is so broad and has so many different ways in which you can enter, is, you know, one of the most important career choices that one could make. It is a field where you can apply technology, you can apply knowledge of economics and finance. You can be involved in global or local or national issues. So it really provides a broad opportunity for growth, for career opportunity, and for being able to make a difference and have an impact. What has motivated me to be part of this initiative, because I'm not in financial services myself, is the fact that I see this as such an important area, and particularly an area that has not had the representation of people of color that I think it could and it should. So I think that I'm so enthusiastic about this work that Financial Services Pipeline is doing, to be able to give the career opportunity to students and professionals of color to make financial services part of their career opportunity. I think it's important that interns think about both soft as well as hard skills as they're thinking about what they want to get out of this opportunity. You know, the hard skills, the technical skills are always going to be so important to learn and to master. But equally are the things that have to do with how you interact with people, how you keep yourself motivated, how you work in teams, how you learn to collaborate. So all of those soft skills, how you present yourself, how you show up, all of those things, I think people are recognizing are equally important, and sometimes even more important than the hard skills when it comes to navigating a career. I think some of the skills that have been vital to me in my leadership roles, you know, are multifold. I mean, first and foremost, I think that a leader needs to learn how to listen. Because oftentimes the best ideas are not your own, but they come from others around you, the teams that you work on. So I think, you know, being able to listen and to actually hear what others are saying, I think is an important aspect of leadership. Also, how you build teams and collaborate, critically important, and particularly in today's world where teamwork is becoming more and more essential and part of how we get our work done. Building diverse teams, particularly so that you have people who express different ideas than your ideas, again, so that as you're in listening mode, you're hearing things that are different than what you might have come up with by yourself. And I think learning how to build collaboration between people, between teams, and really think about how do you bring people together so that you get the best out of what everybody has to offer. If I were to think about career setbacks that I've had, you know, I don't know that I can point to any one particular career setback, but I do think that when I have not done things as well as I would like to, that is oftentimes when I have learned the most. And so I always encourage people to be willing to take risk, be willing to lean into your failures, because I think it's from learning from the things that we have not done as well that sometimes we learn our best lessons. Some of the ways that I have navigated through adversity, you know, I think maybe first and foremost is always remembering why I started on the journey that I started on. And I think always remembering why you did what you did and holding fast to your own personal values, I think is huge when it comes to trying to navigate through adversities. We all get thrown off course sometimes, but I think if we remember who we are, why we are where we are, and what our purpose is, and live true to that purpose, I think that gets you through times of adversity, times of difficulty, times of even self-doubt. If you continue to remember why you're doing, what you think your sense of purpose is, and what your values are. I think the FSP is so important because it's an actual opportunity to learn more about the financial services industry and to also build networks, because I think one of the things that's so important as we navigate through our careers is to make sure that you have networks that are supportive, that understand you, that give you encouragement, and that expand your contacts so that you're able to navigate your career as effectively as possible.